we don't see as much engagement as the hype might lead you to see. And all you have to do is look at this classroom. Classrooms are disengaged. There's not as much political engagement as you might like to see, and so on. And so as I was looking at this, I was reminded also of this. And I don't know if you guys can see the difference here. It's clearly not about them, right? There's something in the atmosphere, something in the context, something in the structure that we're creating for them. And so in studying this, I actually, got all my students together to study themselves. And one of the great quotes that emerged from this, we were trying to figure out this American Idol phenomenon, and we found this great quote that we thought explained this. It says, "What we are encountering is a panicky and almost hysterical attempt to escape from the deadly anonymity of modern life. And the prime cause is not vanity, but the craving of people who feel their personalities sinking lower and lower into the whirl of indistinguishable atoms to be lost in a mass civilization." It really seemed to capture, the reason behind American Idol. But in fact, this is Henry Candy from 1926. And Henry Candy was actually talking about the anonymity you feel in the city, sort of lonely one in a million type feeling that you might feel in the city. Sociologists have been looking at this sort of sense of anomie and insignificance for quite some time. They find roots of it not only in city life, but also in work conditions in which you're on an assembly line, totally replaceable. You have no sense of significance in that role. The movement to suburbia didn't help much because then you suddenly feel increasingly disconnected, increasingly not a part of a community. You're connected only by roads and television sets. And when the conversations of the culture are happening on television and it's a one-way conversation, you have to be on TV to have a voice. You have to be on TV to be significant. And so maybe it's no wonder then the American Idol would have such a following. Now, in the 25 years since Postman, you've had this huge boom of cable television. So in the 80s and 90s, you had this big boom, especially the MTV revolution. So I was very much a part of this. This is when I was 17 years old in 1992. This is how I used to sign my name. Talk about narcissism, right? Like, this is my journal from 1992. I used to sign my name, Mike, as it was, as if it were MTV. And it's funny, to think back. If we were talking about the next generation 15 years ago, we would have been labeling the MTV generation. We would have said that they have short attention spans because they, 4-minute videos, all that stuff. That they're materialistic, narcissistic, and not easily impressed. It's pretty similar to what we say about today's generation when we're having an off day. There's this great quote, about this. This is from Thomas de Vengotita. He looks at this mass of information coming at them, and he says, "In the midst of a fabulous array of historically unprecedented and utterly mind-boggling stimuli, whatever." So we got really excited about this quote, my students and I. So we started mining Google Books and Google Scholar for every instance of whatever that we could find, and we started to put together a brief history of whatever. And this is still in process, so it's not quite as clean as I'd like it to be. But here's the basics of what we're finding so far. Basically, prior to the 1960s, whatever had 3 or 4 different meanings. One of the common ones is whatever, that's what I meant. So if somebody you say something, somebody says the same thing back to you, but in slightly different words, and you can say, whatever, that's what I meant. Okay, but by the late 60s, it took on it had a real cultural heft to it. It almost became an icon of the culture. And it had this sense of like I don't care, like I'm not part of the system, like whatever. It has, it's like the hippie generation is sort of, whatever, man, like that sense of whatever. And actually, one of the great pieces we found is from the Department of Defense, a message to POWs returning in 1973 actually took time to explain this new version of the word whatever. So there's definitely something going on there. By the 1990s, with the blast of MTV material, the MTV generation, you have a new word that emerges, and that's the indifferent meh. I'll give you sort of a brief history of this. This is from 1992. Oh. We're the MTV generation. There we go. Okay, so this is 1992.
Nothing to say can upset us. We're the MTV generation. We feel mighty high to our lows.
Really? What'd you like?
Right, so you get the right? It wasn't quite meh. But then on the message boards, Melrose Place message boards, soon after that, picked it up and started using meh, M-E-H. Right, so, and here you get This is now 2001, The Simpsons again.
You like to go to Blockoland!
Meh.
Stevie gave me the impression that...
He said meh. M-E-H. Meh.
So this is also, back on 1992, this is the rock anthem of the year from Nirvana. I find it hard. It's hard to find. Oh, well, whatever. Never mind. The same song, I feel stupid and contagious. Here we are now. Entertain us. These lyrics are often repeated in the hallways as faculty complain about this. And yet, 1992 was also the era of reality TV. Reality TV was launched basically in the U.S. in 1992 with The Real World, and a number of other shows that soon followed, all the way to American Idol. And the question that emerges in this context is basically why all these people, I don't know if you ever watched the American Idol tryouts, is why all these people, not only do they want to be stars, but why do they all think that they deserve to be stars? I mean, you've heard these people sing, right? It's a pretty shocking thing. So this became another little aspect that we were trying to explain. And there's a lot of theories out about it. One of them is that this is the generation raised by the self-help generation. So the 70s, I'm okay, you're okay stuff. Those are now the parents of this next generation that become extremely self-focused, extremely confident, and so on. But Thomas A. Zengo-Keith has yet another interesting theory here. He suggests that all of this media is produced by the most creative people on the planet, armed with billions of dollars. And they create all of this stuff just for you, just for each and every one of us. And that's ultimately very flattering. And so he says part of the narcissism that we see in this generation comes about through that. Now, there is actually a new version of whatever that's emerged in this context. And I'll play a clip here that expresses this. This is from South Park.
And now back to more kids who are out of control. All of my apartment show. Our next mother is Leanne Cartman. Her son claims to be the most out-of-control kid in the world and says there's nothing his stupid mom can do about it. So let's bring him out. Here's Eric Cartman.
Whatever. I'll do what I want.
So by the late 90s to the present, you get this whatever, I'll do what I want. It's got this real narcissistic edge to it, like I'm the most important person on the planet. The young female version is the whatever, and you get this sort of narcissistic sort of side to these things. So Gene Twingy actually set out to get the stats on all this stuff, and it's a pretty thorough study that he put forth in Generation Me. You can see it's subtitled, Why Today's Young Americans Are More Confident, Assertive, Entitled, and More Miserable Than Ever Before. The reason why they're miserable is because they think they're the next American Idol, and then when they're not, they're shocked. And this narcissism is actually pretty prevalent. You see it all around us. But there's this other side to it, and there's this great philosopher, Charles Taylor, who has pointed out that what looks like narcissism is actually a core ethic in our society, and that is the search and innocent recognition that does not automatically